on something that I'm sure that's not really, but I often, what is the purpose of the hell realms, and what that, how are we moving from that realm, the Lama Sankara, from that realm to where he, what he achieved? I don't, there's no logic to it, I know.
You mean like the purpose? Yeah, you mean like because you.
Yeah, what value is of being in the Holy Ghost realm? What am I reading from that? Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
So
Burning
why am
karma.
I being punished that way?
That's an important point. Like that from a Buddhist point of view, at least that's the Buddhist view, right? Is that remember, like according to Buddhism, there's no creator, right? The creator is your own mind, like, and so in that sense, nobody else is punishing us. Like, you know, and it's sort of like if you think of it this way, it's a bit like this. Like just to give an analogy, like, so we say it. It's like, it's actually horrific, really, if you think about it. There is nobody punishing us, right? It's our own actions. And that, like, for example, right, so in other words, if somebody says something I don't like, and I get angry at them, and then I think I hate them for saying that, right? Like, I'm creating my own hell. You know, and I'm creating, in that moment, I'm creating unpleasantness, and I'm creating the causes for some kind of hell. Hatred is a cause of hell. And like, there's no purpose at all to that. It's just a waste of suffering. Like, it's really, that's the Buddhist view, right? Is that there's no, whereas nobody else is, like the Buddha isn't sending me there, there's no creator sending me there. It's my own hatred, for example, that creates hell. And it's insane. Like, if you look now, right, like, I'm just reflecting for a moment, sharing. Like, if you look now, like, so, you know, just recently, right? Like, terrible event happens. Not just one, many terrible events happen in the world, right? So a terrible event happens, and then somebody looks at that event, right, and they develop hatred, which is actually what people do. You know, it's like they see somebody else do something that I see somebody do something I don't like, and then I develop hatred for them. It's totally insane. From a Buddhist point of view, you say that's and there's no benefit at all to anyone in that, and that creates the cause for this continuing cycle of utter misery without any purpose. And the only way, and this is what we're getting at with the precious human rebirth, to answer the second part of your, I think what was the second part of your question. So there is no purpose to that. There's no benefit to it. It's just a creation. You know, there's one sutra in the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. It says, there's a line that says, by his or her own self does the fool become entangled like knots in space. So it's like, you don't have to, in other words, like, you imagine turning space into a knot, right? Like what the Buddha is saying is, like, it's completely, there is things like hatred or desire or craving or all these states of mind, it's like, there's absolutely no need for them. And yet foolish beings who don't see reality, meaning us, we sort of twist ourselves into something horrible. And there's no benefit at all to that. Yeah, Jeff.
To me, the logic and the purpose are all the same. It is, there are karmic results for actions. And the logic is, this is the result of some action that you created. And the purpose is, you have to experience that. And so once that's been experienced, it will not be experienced again. There is a purpose to it. You are finishing that particular karma that got you into that hell realm, or into that hungry ghost state. Not that I understand how it works, but that is the logic and the purpose of those existences. Is that wrong?
I think that's the logic. I guess it depends what you mean by purpose. I guess the word purpose is maybe a subtle, like what it means, like in the sense of
What good does it do? You must experience the karma.
But for a being who takes rebirth there and just and let's say they have hatred while they're there, then they're just creating the cause for more of it. So it's, in that sense, that there's no benefit. Maybe that's the best way to say it. Like there's no benefit to it in the sense that.
Well, that karma will run its course, and another karma will take its place. And even though you may be creating additional negative karmas while you were there, that may not be the next karma that you experience. Right, once that one burns itself out. I'm not,
Yeah.
like I said, I don't
No.
understand it, but that's the theory.
But I don't want to just say something. I don't disagree with you, Jeff. But to address the second part of what you were saying, like the part of what this precious human rebirth contemplation is getting at is this idea that while you're in these other realms and these other states of being, there really is no opportunity. Like in other words, I remember once doing a retreat and there was a spider that was like living up, like above where I was meditating. And I was like, wow, I'm sitting here and he or she is sitting there. And I was just like, sometimes I would look and I would just feel like, sort of say, we were both sitting still, you know, maybe the spider more than me, for longer. But I was like, wow, like we're both in this room, you know, we're both sitting still, but the spider has no chance. Like in other words, it can't, all it's doing is waiting to eat something. And any creature that would come, you know, like if some fly or, right, I mean, all it was doing is waiting to kill. Like that was its only, and it had no ability to do anything. I was just like reflecting on this topic with that. I was like, oh wow, it can't do anything. And like, if I were to shout mantras all day or do some other, like it doesn't change the state of mind of the spider. Like the spider can't change its state of mind as long as it's in the spider body. But then to answer the other part of your question, part of what this teaching is getting at is that when we finally achieve this kind of human rebirth, with the 8 freedoms and the 10 endowments, which we'll get to the 10 endowments next, but it's like, this is the result of, to get to Jeff's point about results of karma, right? All those are results of negative karma. This is the result, this human rebirth that you have now, which we'll get to more later in this contemplation, is a result of amazingly positive actions that you yourself did, right? Each person here did something very positive to have this rebirth. And with this kind of rebirth, this is what Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, is with this rebirth, even in this lifetime, you can go from being an ordinary person to being equal to Milarepa or Lama Tsongkhapa or the Buddha. In other words, like you can do that in this rebirth, that this is the kind of rebirth where you can achieve anything, actually. And that's what the main point of all these are. So the first thing is we have to this first topic, this whole one is called identifying the life of leisures and endowments, or freedoms and endowments. This is just to understand what we have. Like, because part of the idea is that the Buddha has said, basically, and this is, this is taught in all the actually all Buddhist traditions teach these same, all the Tibetan traditions teach it just like this. All the other Buddhist traditions also teach this idea. In other words, it's there in the sutras, in other words. But part of what the Buddha is saying is, you don't realize what you have. Like, you don't realize who you are. We have no idea, actually. We just because we just wake up as a baby and whatever, we go on. And part of this whole contemplation is the Buddha is saying, you finally have, like, the key to the universe, which is this kind of, Sonny Dalai Lama says, this kind of body with this kind of brain, right, is the thing that allows somebody, a sentient being, to become a Buddha. And really that's what this whole teaching is saying, is that it's really only with this kind of human rebirth that you can do that. And even the teaching, I didn't go into the detail, but there's a teaching that says rarely somebody who's practiced a lot in the human realm, then they can take rebirth in the God realm and have some realization. But the teaching says it's still because of effort they made when they were human. And that's pretty rare. Mostly it's humans. And occasionally somebody in another realm, because they practiced a lot as human, achieve some progress in another realm. So it's mainly with this kind of apparatus or something, this kind of... And so that's it, because you said, how does somebody like that, who's taken rebirth over and over again in those lower realms, become like Lama Tsongkhapa or the Buddha? And so what Lama Tsongkhapa is saying really is, you finally have that chance, and he realized that. If you look at Lama Tsongkhapa's biography, like, he didn't waste any time. Whereas he was like, I have this human life, and all he did was practice and study and transform himself. And he transformed himself through as we'll get into more, through practicing all the different 3 vehicles. So the monastic code of the individual liberation, bodhicitta, and the bodhisattva trainings, and then also the Vajrayana, the tantric teachings. And that's how he became a Buddha, and so the idea is that you have that. That's really the point of all of this. So we're supposed to start to feel, the goal of this is to feel, wow, like this is a miracle that I have this opportunity, so that we don't waste it. That's the idea. So that we use this, because otherwise if you just think, it's really a mistake sometimes if we just think, oh well, this life is no big deal, or I can't, or like low self-esteem, feeling I can't do much, I can't achieve much. That's a huge mistake from a Buddhist point of view. In other words, you can achieve anything because you have this kind of situation. That's really what this is getting at, in a sense. But does that answer?
Yes, it's very interesting that what you have just mentioned. Let me see if I get it correct. The spider of all beings in the animal realm, there's no chance for them to raise their state of mind, or state of consciousness.
Right.
As a human, we can do it. Only human can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about Rick's grant on the scale
Mm-hmm.
from human to Buddha. Is there some example that we achieve things in a smaller scale? For example, I may not be able to achieve Buddhahood, but
Oh yeah.
I look forward to some smaller scale of transformation or
Yeah, we don't, I mean, many.
rising consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, that's what we get into with the three scopes. So there are three scopes of practice. So at the minimum, this is what it's saying. If we understand what we have, then at the minimum we have to, even if we develop some wish for Buddhahood, right? At the minimum we have to say, well, at least I can create the causes for a good future rebirth to have the chance again. And we have the ability to do that as human beings. Whereas like the spider or the ant or the shark, right? They can't say, oh, let me go out and create some good karma and create the good cause for good future rebirth. They don't have the ability to do that. We do, right? So I can say, I'm not going to kill. I'm not going to steal. I'm going to dedicate that with pure prayers to a good future rebirth. And so on. We can do these and that would be the minimum requirement, right? So Khenso Rinpoche often says that. He says, at the minimum, our main job is that we have to not go to lower realms again next life. He sometimes says that's like the emergency for us, actually. That's like urgent. He says, so at the minimum, we can think, okay, I have this rare opportunity. In other words, if we want to aspire to make a lot of spiritual progress in this life, that's good. He points out at the minimum we have to say, okay, so I'm going to avoid the 10 non-virtuous actions. Killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, gossip, all those different, so I'm going to avoid those kind of harmful actions to others with pure ethics. I'll practice generosity and kindness to others, and I'll make pure prayers. May I take rebirth again and keep progressing. And that's the minimum requirement. And then, so that would be like a smaller amount of progress. Or somebody could say anywhere in between, right? Somebody could say, well, let me meditate a lot on bodhicitta and create a lot of imprints. So in a future life, also I'll create, I can progress and so on. So it's up to you how much you want to aim for, but that's the minimum requirement. At least we shouldn't, in other words, if you finally have this and then you say, oh, but I don't have time to practice even ethics, right? Well, then you're being the same as, that's why I said, then you're really not being any different from an insect.